This is the Padua Podcast Network.
Just about has something to do with exercise. I mean, that just goes to tell you how beneficial it is that our body wants to reward us for doing exercise. Running a Fever, episode 154, cortisol, stress, and body fat. Welcome to Running a Fever. Man, I'm just having a great time out here on probably the longest walk that I've had in a couple of months. You know, I had that bursitis that kept me out for a while, and I've been kind of taking it easy, but today, on the walk, I've felt no pain whatsoever. I'm not saying I'm completely healed, because I do have some discomfort, especially when I've been sitting for a long time or getting up in the morning and I haven't moved around a lot. Howdy. Howdy.
Hi.
So hopefully, it has to do with movement, which means that what I'm doing today is good. It's going to help me get better quicker. But definitely, doing better and really happy. You know, I don't like when I'm sidelined for any period of time. And it just helps me get how to burn calories psychologically. Boy, every single one of these chemicals I've been talking about just about has something to do with exercise. And I mean, that just goes to tell you how beneficial it is that our body wants to reward us for doing exercise. You know, it may not necessarily make sense, you know, as this stuff goes back millions of years, deep in our brains. Might want to rest us or might want to reward us for resting, saving energy. Not the case. We're meant to be active creatures. So God gave us these chemicals that are part of a reward system, and one of the things that they reward is exercise. Cortisol, not necessary. Cortisol is kind of bad in a way. I mean, it's sort of an emergency function. Now, this is the final episode in a series of 6 about brain chemistry. Starting with episode 139, you can get to runningafever.com/139, and you should check that one out, definitely, as an overview, and a talk about more. It goes in more into detail on the purpose, societal purpose of these brain chemicals. Cortisol is known as the stress hormone, right? And especially for its role in the fight or flight response that we have to extreme stress in our environments, in our lives. It gives us emergency energy, but to get it, here's the trade-off. And this is why it's only to be used in emergency. It shuts down some of the essential body processes in order to handle this immediate stressful situation. I mean, some of the things that kind of decreases is our growth and immune system. Inhibits the release of oxytocin, which makes us more individualized. You know, it keeps us from forming those bonds. It's also tied to belly fat because of its effect on metabolism and how fat and the various macronutrients are used in the body. So, as usual, I find some conflicting evidence on these chemicals. You know, one source characterized it as a steroid. WebMD, which is usually pretty reliable, actually uses it in the definition of steroid, referring to steroids as synthetic drugs, which cortisol is not necessarily. It's in the body, it's produced by the body. And of course, steroid is such an inflammatory term, maybe not physically inflammatory, but in discussion it is inflammatory because it's so controversial, illegal for some reason. Supposedly it's a very harmful drug. There are some very harmful drugs that are legal, of course, but steroids, the steroid that we're talking about is not the same. It's corticosteroids. They're different from the male hormone-related steroid components or compounds, drugs, that some athletes use for enhanced performance. So, in terms of how this, chemical works, there was a really good website that I'll link in the show notes, runningafever.com/154. As always, you can find an episode that way. Howdy. All right. First we face something really stressful. So in caveman times, a bear shows up at the cave, ready for dinner, and he's not just going to eat the tree leaves, he's going to eat us. That's a very stressful situation. You're in a car accident, whatever it is. Number two, our adrenal glands secrete cortisol. It's all right. Got a stressful situation, we need this drug to go ahead and regulate our body temperatures while this emergency is going on. Temperature, I said temperature, I meant functions. Number three, cortisol triggers the release of glucose into the bloodstream to fuel our muscles for immediate action. Number four, cortisol inhibits insulin production to prevent glucose from being stored. So it's available for immediate use. We just got blood sugar all over the place, swimming in it. Step five, cortisol constricts arteries, increasing the speed of blood flow. I mean, you're getting blood sugar and you're getting it fast. You're getting your oxygen fast. You're getting everything fast. Then step six, we recover from the stress. And step seven, the cortisol levels return to normal as a result. Stress isn't the only thing that cortisol affects, because almost all cells have cortisol receptors. It also controls blood sugar levels and metabolism, reduces inflammation, influences memory function, controls salt and water balance, influences blood pressure, helps with fetal development, triggers the birth processes. Now, from a diet perspective, we talked about the belly fat issue and the blood sugar. Cortisol decides, very important, decides how much and which macronutrients are needed. So macronutrients are fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. And cortisol is basically saying, okay, we need more fat, we need more carbs, we need more protein, and deciding whether those get absorbed or eliminated. So, you can see this is a pretty important drug to know about in the body. Now, one reason that cortisol is being studied a lot and looked at in terms of how we live today as opposed to how the caveman lived, is there's a theory that we're all constantly producing cortisol at an elevated level because we live a fast-paced lifestyle. And a lot of times you'll be with a doctor and they'll ask you if you lead a high stress lifestyle, and most of the time we say, well, yeah, we do. Everybody does. So that's the thing, stress, as we've talked about, is a really dangerous thing, health-wise. There's a really good article in Today's Dietitian that I'll link to that outlines the dangers of elevated cortisol and some ways to combat it, including some stress management techniques. I think we've got all the leaves out, all the birds back for spring. I think this transformation is pretty much over. So, one of the things they talk about is eating an anti-inflammatory diet. I just bought a book I bought it months ago. I haven't opened it yet, but it's about an anti-inflammatory cooking book, basically, or diet book. So hopefully I'll have some more information on that in the future. So I don't have a how to get the drug section in this episode, but I do want to just repeat my caveat that this is just for understanding how our bodies work. We don't want to try to load up or manipulate these chemical levels in our bodies. The goal is to know more about how our bodies work so that we can live happy, active, and healthy lives right up to the very end. Because that, my friend and loyal listener, I hope, is what running a fever is all about. And if you know that, you got the fever, so keep it. If you don't have the fever, go out and get it. I'll talk to you next time on Running a Fever.